Around 66 million years ago, a single moment changed the history of life on Earth forever. A massive asteroid measuring about 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter hurtled toward the planet at over 70,000 kilometers per hour. The impact site would later be known as the Yucatan Peninsula in modern-day Mexico. The energy released by the collision was equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima atomic bombs detonating simultaneously. In an instant, the world of the dinosaurs began to collapse in ways no creature could have ever prepared for. At the exact point of impact, all life was instantly obliterated. Temperatures at ground zero soared to thousands of degrees Celsius, vaporizing rock water and anything living. Dinosaurs, plants, and marine creatures close to the blast ceased to exist before they could even comprehend what was happening. A crater several kilometers deep formed immediately, launching hundreds of billions of tons of dust and rock into the atmosphere. Within seconds, shock waves of unimaginable force rippled outward at supersonic speeds. Winds stronger than any hurricane ever recorded swept across the land. Forests within thousands of kilometers ignited spontaneously, turning into raging infernos. Rapid changes in air pressure caused internal injuries in countless animals, even those hundreds of kilometers away, killing them almost instantly. Earthquakes shook the ground, volcanoes awakened, and the entire planet vibrated like a colossal drum. In less than a minute after impact, surface temperatures began to rise dramatically. Even in regions thousands of kilometers away, massive dinosaurs like Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, and Hadrosaurus began to sense the coming disaster. They looked skyward at a fiery streak carving across the heavens. Their survival instinct screamed for them to flee. But where could they go when the entire world was turning into a furnace? Moments later, superheated debris re-entered the atmosphere, creating a fiery rain across the planet. Forests that had thrived for millions of years erupted into flames within minutes. Thick plumes of smoke and soot started blanketing the sky, dimming the sunlight, and foreshadowing even greater catastrophes yet to unfold. Along the coastlines, predatory dinosaurs like Dromaeosaurus and herbivores like Edmontosaurus panicked as the ground shook violently and the sea receded, warning of an approaching mega-tsunami. Even aquatic creatures like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs could not escape the devastation. Fish invertebrates and microscopic organisms alike were affected almost instantly. A few lucky survivors emerged from the chaos, not the strongest or the fiercest, but the smallest and most hidden. Primitive mammals, reptiles burrowing underground, and early birds sheltering in nests managed to avoid immediate annihilation. They didn't escape unscathed, but for now, they clung to a narrow thread of life. Within the first 10 minutes, the vibrant, lush world was already plunging into darkness. The sky darkened as dust and ash filled the atmosphere. Local temperatures soared near the impact zone, but would soon crash worldwide. Trees were reduced to charred skeletons. Soil cracked under the heat. The air became thick with fine ash and noxious fumes, making breathing nearly impossible. Every surviving creature began a desperate battle for air shelter and survival. But this was only the beginning. The impact did not merely kill millions of organisms. Instantly, it triggered a global cascade of environmental disasters, leading to one of the largest mass extinctions in Earth's history. As the first 10 minutes ended, the few remaining survivors faced a new world. A world without sunlight, without abundant food, and filled with relentless threats. The true apocalypse was only getting started. In the next part, we will step into the following 10 minutes, where the full fury of nature will sweep across the planet, transforming Earth into a wasteland few creatures would survive. 10 minutes after the cataclysmic impact, Earth was no longer recognizable. The massive wound on the planet's surface continued to bleed heat, toxic gases, and fine dust into the atmosphere. But the real apocalypse was just beginning. At this very moment, a colossal tsunami was forming and racing across the oceans at terrifying speed. A wall of water towering over 1 kilometer high surged outward, swallowing everything in its path. Dinosaurs along coastal areas, mangrove forests, and giant marine reptiles. All were swept away like tiny fragments. Future cities that would one day rise on these lands would find themselves buried beneath layers of mud and death. No place was safe. Even regions thousands of kilometers from ground zero. The sky had now become a wall of dense, dark ash. Tiny dust particles reflected sunlight away from Earth, plunging the planet into a murky twilight. Within minutes, natural daylight was nearly gone, replaced by an eerie, dim glow, like an endless night without moon or stars. Plants dependent on sunlight for photosynthesis began to die almost immediately, but the horror escalated as acid rain began to fall. Sulfur compounds released into the atmosphere mixed with moisture, creating highly acidic downpours. These rains killed young plants, poisoned freshwater sources, and burned the skin of exposed animals. Streams, lakes, and forests were devastated from the inside out. Dinosaurs, no matter how massive, could not withstand the acid falling from the sky. Meanwhile, the dense ash cloud caused global temperatures to plummet. Tropical forests that once teemed with life suddenly faced unexpected freezes, first a few degrees, then rapidly dropping to near freezing temperatures across many regions. Cold-blooded creatures like giant reptiles, turtles, and amphibians could not regulate their body heat and began to die in droves. The food chain collapsed within hours, with plants dying. Herbivorous dinosaurs like Triceratops and Hadrosaurus found themselves without food. As herbivores perished from starvation and poisoned environments, carnivorous predators like T-Rex and Dromaeosaurus quickly lost their prey. Hunger, freezing temperatures, and environmental poisoning killed more creatures faster than any predator ever could. Even species that survived the initial impact could not escape the growing nightmare. Primitive birds, though able to fly, had nowhere safe to land in a world where the air was toxic and the rains corrosive. Small mammals burrowed underground, only to face oxygen shortages, collapsing tunnels, or starvation as resources vanished. A world littered with corpses began to take shape. Giant dinosaurs collapsed across plains. Rivers turned dark with mud and blood. The air became so putrid that each breath felt like a battle against death itself. While the larger creatures struggled and failed, it was the small, adaptable survivors hiding in cracks, burrows, and muddy puddles who gained their first real foothold in a changing world. Because in the aftermath of the impact, the strong were no longer the largest. The strong were the smallest, the fastest to adapt, the least picky eaters. Creatures like early rodents, small lizards, frogs, and insects, once overshadowed by towering giants, now awaited their turn to dominate the new Earth. As the next 10 minutes passed, the once lush planet became a realm of ash and ruin. Verdant forests gave way to fields of gray and black. Mighty beasts that once ruled land and sky were now nothing but scattered bones lying atop cracked, barren earth. Yet hidden beneath the ashes and darkness, the seeds of a new world were already beginning to sprout. A world where millions of years later humanity would find its place in the grand story of life. In the final part, we'll explore the long-term consequences of the impact, how it wiped out the ancient rulers, and paved the way for mammals to rise, setting the stage for the dawn of humankind. Hours after the cataclysmic impact, Earth, once vibrant and full of life, fell into an eerie silence. The tsunamis had receded, leaving behind wastelands littered with corpses and debris. The fires slowly died down, but the sky remained choked with thick layers of ash, preventing sunlight from reaching the ground. Earth entered an endless night, where the cold began tightening its grip on every living creature that had managed to survive. In the days that followed, global temperatures plummeted drastically. Without sunlight to warm the planet, regions that had once been lush tropical forests turned into freezing wastelands. The last herbivorous dinosaurs, starving and exhausted, collapsed in herds across the frozen ground. Apex predators like T-Rex, dependent on abundant prey, quickly followed into extinction as the food chain disintegrated entirely. The nightmare did not end. After a few days, dust and debris lingered in the atmosphere for months. Even years, blocking out sunlight and maintaining the freezing conditions. This was the beginning of the impact. Winter. An artificial winter that was colder and deadlier than anything Earth had ever experienced. Rivers froze solid. Jungles became barren graveyards. Life on the surface all but disappeared. Only the smallest, most adaptable creatures managed to survive this prolonged catastrophe. Tiny mammals, primitive birds, crocodiles, turtles, and some deep-sea fish clung to life by hiding underground in the depths of water or inside sheltered burrows. Creatures that could eat anything from carrion to decaying plants stood a far greater chance of survival than those who relied solely on hunting or grazing. After about 3 to 5 years, the dust in the atmosphere finally began to settle. The first weak rays of sunlight pierced the gloom, slowly warming the planet again. But the world that emerged was utterly transformed. The once mighty forests that spanned North America, Asia, and Africa were replaced by barren, lifeless plains. Giant herbivores and ferocious carnivores alike had vanished almost entirely. This marked the end of the Cretaceous period and the dawn of the Paleogene era, the age of mammals. In the shadows of extinction, small, nimble creatures like primitive rodents began to thrive and multiply. With the dinosaurs gone, no longer overshadowed by giants like T-Rex, they found opportunities to expand and diversify. Scarce food sources were enough for those tiny survivors who needed little to sustain themselves. Over time, mammals evolved into an astonishing variety of forms, occupying every available ecological niche in trees. Underground, underwater. Some evolved into small predators. Others became new herbivores. The surviving birds branched into diverse lineages, shaping the avian world we know today. Had the asteroid never struck, dinosaurs might have continued to dominate the planet for tens of millions of years longer. But because of this cataclysmic event, the evolutionary door opened for mammals and eventually for humans. It was the ultimate reset, clearing the way for intelligence, adaptability, and persistence to define the new rulers of Earth. Millions of years after the impact, a new species, humans, would rise to look back at the sky and wonder about their own origins. We would dig up the fossils of T-Rex, Triceratops, and other ancient giants and ask what happened. How could the most powerful creatures the Earth had ever known disappear so quickly? The answer is simple, yet profound. Sometimes, one single moment, a rock falling from the sky, is enough to rewrite the history of life. And no matter how powerful humanity becomes, we must never forget the lesson left behind by the dinosaurs. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share your thoughts in the comments. there are still countless mysteries waiting for us to uncover in the ancient past.